Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. This is the France 24 debate. We're looking at Murdoch's world, Rupert Murdoch in the eye of the storm as the scandal that led to the shutting down of Britain's top-selling Sunday newspaper seems to only just be beginning. With us to talk about it is Labour member of the European Parliament, Claude Moraes. He is in London. Thank you for being back with us. Also with us, Craig Kopidis of Bloomberg News. Sophie Lesuarn, who teaches at Paris's Sorbonne Nouvelle University, and the recent author of David Cameron, a 21st Century Conservative, that's published in French for the time being. And Robert Skippon, who teaches at Sciences Po Paris, Sciences Po being France's most prestigious political science institute. Thank you for being back with us. We've been talking about Rupert Murdoch in part one and the power he had over the sway he had over the political world in Britain, dating all the way back to 1969. Murdoch's first purchase outside of Australia, when he bought in the same year both The Sun and the News of the World, signaling that things would never ever be the same again on Fleet Street.
Oh, well, we're changing the whole paper and changing the whole economy of it, of course. The old Sun was printed in London and Manchester, employed 1,700 people. We're going to employ 900 or less. And this has all been done after weeks and weeks of long negotiations with all the unions concerned. We're going to have an entirely different approach to the paper. We're going to try and sell it to the public, which I don't think the Sun has been trying for a long time.
Robert Skippon, when you hear Rupert Murdoch there, from dating a much younger Rupert Murdoch back in 1969, what comes to mind?
And what comes to mind is the beginning of the significant decline of the British press and a world of tabloids that make the New York Post look like the Encyclopedia Britannica. It was a very, very unfortunate day for Britain when Rupert Murdoch decided to set sail from Australia. And of course,
hang on, as Craig was saying, it's not just Murdoch that Murdoch didn't invent the tabloid press.
He didn't invent them, but let's say he took it considerably further. I was never an arduous reader of the British press before 1969, but it seems to me that you did have several serious newspapers. You had the Times, you had the Sunday Times, you had the Guardian, you had the Observer, and then in comes Murdoch with a very serious shift downward in terms of the quality of the press. And I think that that was indeed unfortunate. There are comparisons to be made between the United States, but maybe we'll get back to that later. But this is not a great day for Britain in 1969.
Sophie Lesuarn, when you cross the Channel from France, what are your thoughts when you read the British papers?
Well, I think the self-regulation of a British press is a great asset, because there is a great openness, and the British press covers a lot, which the French press doesn't, because the French press is entirely regulated by the executive power, and it is controlled by the presidency. And I think what is extraordinary...
When you say it's controlled by the French presidency, what do you mean?
Well, the appointment of the journalists or many media directors are decided in the Élysée Palace. It is quite different in Britain, because there is a tradition of a freedom of press which has endured. And what the problem today is the problem of the regulation of a press, the inefficiency of the Press Complaints Commission, the inefficiency of Ofcom, the regulator of the press, and as the Prime Minister announced on Friday, he is going to reform the regulation of a press. And I think that is what is needed, a new morality for the British press.
But hang on a second, Craig Kopidis, when you look at the fact that in the U.S. the regulator has a lot less teeth than it used to.
The regulator in the United States is called the First Amendment, and the regulator is also professionalism, which is woefully lacking in the United Kingdom.
Hold on.
And
What
in
about
France.
what about in the U.S. You have what's called the FCC.
Well, when you're when you're talking about broadcast, yes.
And when you're talking about a regulator like that one, you see that it has a lot less teeth than it used to, and it wasn't Murdoch's fault per se. It was lots of big conglomerates, and there's been this
well, the money. There's
mergers and acquisitions have made it that the media companies are bigger
right.
than these.
There is no fortress or politician so strong that cannot be conquered by money. I mean, that's as old as Rome here. But you bring up. I think here is what is the cascade effect. Is this silly little kerfuffle going on now in England threatens to collapse the Murdoch empire globally? There is a cascade effect.
Does
here.
it really?
I think it does. I think, again, a cascade effect. I've seen this before in other stories. I am looking at this now not as a critic or observer, but if I have a team of people here right now from my office and I say, what stories are we going to focus on to take this further? What's the next step? You look at tactical things we would do journalistically. A number of fascinating things here. Murdoch, one of Murdoch's only moves, Rupert's only moves, obviously was to remove Rebecca Wade from being in charge of this oversight committee. Who did he put in her place? 2 Americans, one an attorney who used to be, I believe, in the Justice Department. Now, why? Well, folks, go to your Google and type Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. What's going on in London could be prosecuted in the United States, where Murdoch has quite a few properties that he operates like the sinecures.
So corrupting the police in Britain means you could be indicted in the United States.
Exactly, because he has U.S. interests and it's an American corporation. He owns the New York Post, which is another comic book, okay? He owns my alma mater, the Wall Street Journal. He also owns Fox News, which to a great extent, media critics, you could look it up, folks, have accused Fox News, not me, media critics have accused Fox News of operating in a manner similar to how he operates his newspapers in the UK. Having sinecures come in and work for the newspaper for the government and then putting them back in the government. A revolving door, as it were. The point
People like Sarah Palin working for Fox News.
Yes. Now, the point of it is this good business? It's terrific business. I wish I was in the business. Roger Ailes at Fox News, who went to Ohio University, where I went to school, same journalism school, is a genius. These guys are geniuses.
And who used to work in the Bush administration.
That's right. The news.
And the Nixon administration.
Yeah, and the News of the World, I read it. It's a terrific comic book. It's entertainment. But, but think it's Harry got drunk with some girl. Prince Harry gets drunk with a girl in a discotheque, and they put that on page 1. I want to read about that, and so do you, and so does everyone. But it's not journalism.
All right.
Yeah. Just a word too about the United States, the weakening of the FCC, which is true, the First Amendment, and so on. One of the things I think it's important to keep in mind is that the decline of a certain aspect of the American media, not so much the newspapers, but even more television with Fox News, is happens at the same time as Murdoch emerging in the United States. Murdoch comes to the United States in the early 1980s.
But groups like CBS, Viacom, today we see, for instance, Disney controls ABC, which is a huge...
Right. They're all... Murdoch is only one of 4 in the United States, or 5, but he has enormous power. But what I'm saying is that the shift to a certain tabloid mentality in some of American TV news, the weakening of regulation, especially the FCC, coincides rather curiously with Murdoch's arrival, his friendship with Newt Gingrich, his friendship with Ronald Reagan, who began the whole conservative reaction in the United States, which changed the whole New Deal, let's say, mentality that existed since the 30s. This is all happening at the same time as Rupert comes on the scene. Now, did Murdoch cause this? Arguably not. But there is a coincidence of events there that's rather curious.
First thing, I just want to show everybody the share price of B Sky B, what it's done in the past month or so. And we can look at that share price now and see that there it goes since this scandal broke, and it's going through the floor.
May I come in here on the share
Claude
price?
Moraes, I just want to ask you, do you think that this is indeed the beginning of the end for Murdoch's empire?
I think the cascade effect is already happening, and I'll tell you why. The United Kingdom was the testing ground for Rupert Murdoch. What he did was he monopolised the newspapers. He took quality titles as well as tabloid titles. But with Sky News, he had 39%. What he wants to do in the United Kingdom, the long-term plan, is he doesn't need the newspapers. They're declining in political effect, even though they're still politically powerful. The peak was in the 1980s. What he's trying to do now with B-Sky B is get the whole thing, because he wants a situation in the United Kingdom where you can have a Fox News. I mean, you know, in politics and media in the United Kingdom, we've been talking for months about the inevitability of us having in the UK a Sky which is more like Fox.
But hang on a second, Claude Moraes, he also supported New Labour. So
exactly.
Was he supporting New Labour because he believed in what they said ideologically, or simply because he's a businessman?
He supported New Labour for a very simple reason, that the landslide was coming. The Conservatives had exhausted years of their mandate. Labour was coming in. Tony Blair wanted... It was a vicious circle. Tony Blair wanted Murdoch, he courted Murdoch, and he wanted to win. News International had helped destroy Labour under Neil Kinnock, so Blair wanted no ambiguity about our victory. He wanted Murdoch on side. Murdoch knew Labour were going to win anyway. He wanted to make sure Tony Blair was moving to the right. Tony Blair moved to the right. He wanted to make sure Gordon Brown stayed on the right of, you know, where Labour was in the 1980s.
So how is this going to change the Labour Party now?
Well, it's going to change it in this way. The Labour Party has been dominated since the 1970s by the fear of Murdoch. It's been a dominant issue for us. The great thing about what is happening today is that the idea of a Fox News in the United Kingdom is now going. Rupert Murdoch wanted to change the media architecture. He wanted a situation where we had broadcasting which was as deregulated as the press titles. That was the key to buying the whole of B-Sky B. It makes huge amounts of money. His newspapers don't make huge amounts of money. And now what is good for Labour in the United Kingdom and good for Ed Miliband, the leader of the Labour Party, is that we can take this yoke off a little bit because we can now strike back. And that is what's been happening. But I do say to you that David Cameron will not suffer too much in this, because this is about the establishment in Britain. It's about the media and political establishment. It's not about one or other party, because both Labour and Conservative parties courted Murdoch and both suffered under Murdoch. And Cameron, you know, in months to come, Cameron will, I suspect, be relieved that the Murdoch yoke has been lifted. In months to come, he's going to suffer in the short term, but in the long term, British society will benefit.
But Murdoch will fight. Murdoch will fight. He will take this B-Sky thing. His move today is essentially designed that this issue will go to the courts for adjudication at some point. You know, an important, again, tactically speaking here, if you look at Rupert Murdoch, News Corp's portfolio, B-Sky B is their only strategy. There is nothing else there, you know, for...
He already controlled the company. Why did he need to have 100%?
No, 39%.
39%. He could, as Claude said, he could not, if that indeed was his plan, he could not at this point turn it into a Sky News. I know guys who work for Sky who are concerned about that. You know, about that happening, that they would become an ideological broadcaster. Sky News is a darn good news operation. They were concerned that it would turn into something like Fox in the United States.
All right, before we go, I want to point something out to you in a blog where he rails against the dangers of UK media becoming peaceful like this. Two-state and Americanized. The Daily Telegraph's U.S. correspondent Toby Hardinan writes the following: "There's a danger of an unholy alliance between Cameron and Miliband, politicos like Alastair Campbell and John Prescott, rivals keen to see News International titles emasculated, and sanctimonious celebs. If we let them, they will capitalize on the justifiable dismay of the public to muzzle the press." Do you see this happening, Sophie Lussoir?
No, I think David Cameron wants to have a free press. He said on Friday, "I prefer newspapers without a government than governments without newspapers."
That's what he says.
That was what he said.
That's Thomas Jefferson.
That's what
He's
he
stealing
says.
quotes from Jefferson.
But when you look in this country, for instance, at how stringent the privacy laws are and how celebrities and politicians can win in their lawsuits so easily, do you think that that's the way that eventually they will go elsewhere?
No, I think the British press is going to be cleaned, and a new morality code is going to be set in the end. But it won't affect David Cameron. He will save his soul in the end.
Look, there's a very, very important point here. Using the kind of tactics that News Corp has done that's got him into this, using it on Wall Street vis-a-vis a property in the United States like they own the Wall Street Journal or Dow Jones
News Agency.
Dow Jones News Agency, where that information is much more important than which movie star is gay or who Prince Harry is going out with. The public is actually okay, unfortunately, with Murdoch tapping the phones of Brad Pitt or whoever else he tapped. I don't know if he tapped Brad Pitt, but these movie stars and Hugh Grant, these celebrities, because that's part of being a celebrity. He crossed the border here. He crossed the Rubicon. He's going after poor people. He's going after people who've been oppressed. This poor family. Yeah, 9/11 people in the United States, the victims of 9/11 who were British.
All the victims of 7th of July.
Yes,
the terrorist attack in London.
So what's going on here is that I am guilty too. When I'm in England, I bought the News of the World and I buy the Sun and I have a chuckle. It's funny. I enjoy it.
All right, but this will be my final question. Claude Moraes, don't the British have a chuckle too? People.
Nobody in Britain is laughing, and I'll tell you why.
No, but when they buy the tabloids, they know it's just the tabloids.
No. For many months now, there's been a sense in the United Kingdom that we've moved from, the funny side of reading the Sun, the humour, the soft porn that was in all of these newspapers, to a more sinister phase where most of the stories in these newspapers are obtained through surveillance, through entrapment, and so on. And there's been a sense for many months now, and the sales of these papers have been falling, where it's become much more a coarsening of British society. There has been that sense. And that is why the News of the World was under merger talks in the first place by Murdoch, because they sensed that this kind of development was happening. But Murdoch wants one thing. He wants the 39% to be 100%, because broadcasting is where the money is. The newspapers bought the politicians off, but they were buying them off much less than before. And I think now his big prize is under threat, and that is what he will be very angry about.
Claude Moraes, I want to thank you for joining us from London. I want to thank as well Sophie Lussoir, Craig Kopidis, and Robert Skippen for being with us. And thank you for being with us for the France 24 debate. Stay with us. Coming up next, it's Business with Marcus Carlson right here on France 24.